He took me back after I cheated. It happened once, with an ex. It was out of confusion. He understood me, loved me, forgave me, even when everyone in his life told him not to. He worked on us for years since then, even asked me to marry him. But weeks before our wedding, we argued, and after he talked back when I compared him with the same ex, I told him, maybe I didn't just accidentally end up in his bed back then. Maybe it was for a reason. His name was Mark. Steady, dependable, the kind of man you could build a life with. He wasn't flashy or overly romantic, but he had a quiet kindness that made me feel safe. He listened more than he talked, remembered the little things, and never made me feel like I was rushing him or pushing him too hard. With Mark, I felt calm, grounded, like I was finally settling into something real. But before Mark, there was Luke. Luke wasn't just an ex. No. He was my first real love, the one who made my heart race like no one else ever had. We met in high school, and for years our lives were tangled together. There were late-night talks under streetlights, secret trips to the beach, inside jokes no one else understood. We dreamed of running away together, escaping to a world where nothing else mattered. He was wild, unpredictable, and passionate. He made me feel alive in ways Mark never could. But Luke had his demons, reckless decisions, angry outbursts, and a restless soul that never settled. Eventually, it became too much. We broke apart, leaving behind a trail of memories both beautiful and painful. When I met Mark, I was ready to move on, or so I thought. Mark was everything Luke wasn't: steady, patient, and safe. When he finally asked me to be his girlfriend, we'd been going out for a while already. I said yes because I wanted stability. I wanted love that wouldn't burn out. But deep down, I was still confused, still tangled in the past. Weeks later, at a party, I saw Luke again. It was at a mutual friend's place. Seeing him after so long was like opening a wound I thought had healed. We talked like no time had passed, laughing and reminiscing. It didn't feel out of place for a second. It felt like we'd slipped back into our old rhythm, the same easy connection, the same spark. That night, after the party had mostly emptied out, Luke pulled me aside. We stood in the quiet hallway, away from the noise and the people. His eyes were intense, haunted almost, full of everything we'd never said between us. He looked at me like I still meant something to him. Look at you pretending like you don't miss me. You don't ever think about how we were? He asked softly. I wanted to say no. I wanted to tell him I was with Mark now, that I'd moved on. But the words caught in my throat. I do, I said, barely above a whisper. He didn't believe me, looked deep into my eyes with a hint of doubt. Is there someone else now? His voice cracked just slightly, betraying how much he cared. I shook my head but didn't say a word. One thing led to another. He reached for me, his touch gentle at first, then more urgent. He kissed me, slow and electric, like every moment we ever shared was rushing back in an instant. I wanted to pull away, but I didn't. I let myself get lost in it. Before I knew it, we were in his apartment. I remember the cold floor under my bare feet, the way the dim light hit the walls. I remember how his hands felt on my skin, how my heart pounded in my chest, not from love, but from confusion and desperation. It wasn't just about him. It was about me, about the fear I had of truly committing, the guilt I carried for even thinking of Mark as safe instead of thrilling. That night was a mistake, a moment of weakness that shattered everything. When I woke up next to him, in his bed, the shame hit me like a wave. The guilt wasn't just in my head. It was heavy in my chest, in every breath. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror without seeing what I'd done. I had betrayed Mark, the man who had trusted me, completely. And for what? A moment of reckless escape that left me feeling emptier than before. After that night with Luke, I told myself it was just confusion. A terrible, terrible mistake born out of fear, uncertainty, and loneliness. I kept repeating it like a prayer. It's not who I am. It won't happen again. But the guilt was like a dark shadow that followed me everywhere, whispering that I had broken something that might never be fixed. For weeks, I carried it alone. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep without that heavy knot twisting inside me. Every time Mark looked at me, I was afraid he could see the truth buried behind my eyes. But the silence was suffocating. I knew I had to tell him. One evening I found the courage, or maybe the desperation, to confess. "Mark, can we talk?" My voice was barely a whisper, trembling. He looked up from the couch, his expression open but calm. "Of course," he said. I sat down across from him, heart pounding so loud I thought he could hear it. I swallowed hard. "There's something I have to tell you." He nodded, waiting. I met Luke. "It was recent," I said, my voice barely steady. His face shifted, subtle at first, but then the confusion came through. He tried to hide it, to keep his calm. "Your ex?" he asked quietly, almost like he didn't want to believe it. I nodded, swallowing hard. "Yeah, it was unexpected. I didn't plan for it to happen." He was silent for a long moment, his eyes searching mine, trying to read between the words. "Mark, we kissed. I'm so sorry. I didn't plan to, I promise." The words felt like a punch to my chest. God, I can't imagine what it was like to him. His face didn't change, but I could see the flicker of hurt flash across his eyes, quick and sharp, then gone. He swallowed hard, blinked. Why? His voice was low, almost controlled. I was confused. I was scared. I didn't know what I wanted. I thought maybe I wasn't ready for us, for something real, but it was a mistake, Mark. Just once. I swear. I looked down, ashamed. "It wasn't just a kiss, was it?" he asked, looking down at the floor now. I couldn't answer. My vision went blurry. Mark looked up at me in confusion, his eyes filled with tears. He wasn't hiding it anymore. He looked at me like he was expecting me to say something, like he was begging me to prove what he was thinking of was wrong, that it didn't happen. I stayed quiet, sobbing. He got his answer. I wanted to hold him tight, promise him I loved him and only him. I did. I wanted to apologize, cry my heart out to him, swear on my life that I'd be faithful to him forever. But I couldn't. I couldn't move, not an inch. So I stayed still, watching him die inside, slowly, painfully. He stayed silent for a long moment, like he was carefully gathering his thoughts. Then quietly he said, "Do you still love me?" The question caught me off guard. I looked up at him, tears streaming now. "Yes," I whispered. "I do. More than anything." He nodded slowly, eyes locking with mine. "I love you too." But beneath those words, I could see the pain, quiet and deep. He wasn't angry in the way I expected. No yelling, no bitterness. It was like he was holding back a storm inside, trying not to let it break us. In the weeks that followed, Mark didn't just forgive me. He fought for us. He became more patient, more gentle, more understanding. When I broke down in tears, he held me. When I doubted myself, he reminded me of what we were building together. Slowly, piece by piece, we began to rebuild. Years passed. I stayed faithful. Every day a reminder of the mistake I never wanted to repeat. Our families grew close, sharing holidays and celebrations. Friends who once whispered doubts now saw the strength in our bond. And then, one perfect evening, Mark surprised me with a proposal. It was simple, No grand gestures, just the two of us, under the soft glow of fairy lights in our backyard. He got down on one knee and asked me to be his wife. I couldn't have been happier. I said yes without hesitation. For a while, everything felt perfect. The days before the wedding should have been filled with excitement, planning, laughter. But instead, an invisible tension had settled between us. It started with something small, something I never thought would turn into a fight. We were sitting at the kitchen table, the guest list spread out before us like a minefield. Mark was carefully ticking off names, his voice calm but firm. "Think we should keep it simple. Just close family and friends," he said. I nodded but hesitated. "What about Aunt Carol? You haven't invited her to anything since the funeral." Mark's face tightened. "Not her. No way," he said firmly. For whatever reason, that didn't sit right with me. Mark and my aunt never got along, yes, but she was my family. Something about the tone in which Mark said it just felt off to me. "I know she's had her issues with you," I said softly. "But she's family. She's lonely, Mark. She's been left out of so much. I want to make it right." He sighed and shook his head. "You remember last Christmas, right? The way she kept taking shots at me, saying I wasn't good enough for you? I can't have her there stirring things up again." I bit my lip, remembering. Aunt Carol had always favored Luke, my ex, ever since we met. She thought Luke was the fun one, the one who could actually make me happy. Mark, on the other hand, was too serious, too quiet, and never quite good enough in her eyes. But I didn't want to throw away years of trying to heal wounds for a grudge. "People change, Mark. Maybe she's different now. Maybe she just wants to be included." He looked at me like I was being naive. I hated that. It wasn't his wedding alone. It was mine too. He didn't get to decide by himself. Maybe she had her reasons, I muttered under my breath, barely loud enough for him to hear. Mark's head jerked up, eyes sharp and incredulous. What was that? I met his gaze, feeling the heat rise in my chest. I said maybe she had her reasons, you know? For all the digs she took at you? He stared at my face. I couldn't read him. "Babe, you need to calm down. Or maybe you need to let loose more, Mark. Maybe more like Luke," I shot back. "You really just said that to me?" he said quietly, but firmly. "You're seriously comparing me to the man you cheated with?" I swallowed hard. The room felt smaller, the air thicker. My heart pounded in my chest. Mark's eyes were full of something I hadn't seen in years: hurt, disbelief, and something colder beneath it all. I looked down, ashamed but defiant. I wasn't done. "You love bringing that up, don't you? How you're so kind by taking me back." He was quiet by then, just staring, watching the woman he thought he knew. You know what, Mark? Maybe I didn't end up in his bed that night by accident. Maybe I had my reasons for it. I regretted saying that instantly, but I was too proud to take it back. Mark's jaw clenched, and he ran a hand through his hair, clearly trying to stay composed. The silence stretched between us, heavy and suffocating. Don't know how long the room was quiet. Felt like hours. Finally, he said, "I'm going to need some time." And just like that, he stood up and left the room. It's been 3 days since Mark left after that argument. The last time I saw him, walking out of the house with his jaw clenched, refusing to say a word. Since then, nothing. No calls, no messages, no sign of him anywhere. The weight of guilt is crushing me. I keep replaying our fight, the words I threw at him so carelessly. Maybe I didn't end up in his bed that night by accident. Maybe I had my reasons for it. God, how could I have said that? The man who forgave me when I thought I didn't deserve it. The man who loved me through my darkest mistakes. I replay the conversation in my head, every pause, every look in his eyes, the hurt, the disbelief, the shame. I know Mark is proud, too, proud to reach out to me, or even to his friends or family. Maybe he's ashamed, confused, and doesn't know how to move forward. I've tried calling him again and again, each ring cutting through the silence like a desperate plea. But every time, it goes straight to voicemail. I leave messages, soft apologies, tearful confessions, begging him to come home, to talk to me. But there's no reply. I'm too ashamed to reach out to his family. I don't want to drag them into this mess I caused. What would they think? How could I face them knowing I reopened wounds they wanted to forget? I keep hoping Mark might just need space and will come back on his own. But the longer the silence stretches, the harder it is to believe that. I finally swallowed my pride and contacted a few of Mark's closest friends. I hid all of it, played it casual, asked them if they've heard from him lately. They haven't. I left it at that. I tried contacting his work yesterday. He hasn't showed up in the 3 days. I see his eyes from that night. The hurt, the disbelief, the silent pain that didn't explode into anger but felt even worse. I can't stop thinking about how proud he is, how deeply that pride must be keeping him from reaching out, even if he's hurting just as much. I'm terrified that I've ruined everything. After years of fighting to rebuild what I broke, after the promises we made, the dreams we shared, I might have destroyed it all in one careless moment. At night, I lie awake in the quiet house we built together, staring at the ceiling, my heart pounding with fear. What if he's made up his mind? What if this was the breaking point? The moment when he finally gave up on us? I want to reach out again, but I'm frozen by the fear of pushing him even further away. What if this time, he doesn't come back? The silence is unbearable. It's like a physical presence, pressing down on me from every corner of this empty home, invading my thoughts, drowning out every hope. I'm lost. I'm scared. And more than anything, I'm desperately praying that the man I love will find his way back to me, that he has it in him one last time to forgive me.